Okay, the last video was about digitizing a pretty simple geometric logo. But what happens if your solution is not as nice and neat and geometric, not as easy to manipulate into? Either way, you'll probably have to manipulate a little bit. But when it's more complex, we can go at it a different way, right? And I don't expect you to be a master of Illustrator. I just want you to make it as clean of a project as you can, right? So I have Illustrator launched and I have a new document. Um, and I've gone ahead and scanned redrawn the example logo from our book. Now you can see it's a little messy here, right? We should try to not make it messy, but I want to show you, in case you do messy, because inevitably things happen, right? How to fix it. So again, you saw that in Illustrator in the last video, we can drag an image in here, right? So I'm just going to do that same thing. Now last time we had made it into a template. But this one we actually want Illustrator to do some work for us. We basically want Illustrator to help us start us with a shape. So you'll notice up here, right, nothing's here, but as soon as I select my image, this contextual menu comes up with these different things. And this is image trace. We can actually trace this image for us, right? Now it probably is going to make most sense, right? Let's scan it as a black and white logo. Let's let Illustrator start helping us out. So I'll click on black and white logo. That's pretty good, right? We didn't have to draw that. We see there's some problems, right? So no doubt you're going to have to go clean up the problems in this case, right? But right now we can't do anything with it. It's just the computer's kind of done its thing, but it's not permanent. We can't actually edit this anymore. We can actually change the way it traces, and if we're not happy with what's going on, right, you can actually go in here, right? See, that made it worse. This made it a little better, right? So you can fiddle with this until you have what looks like it's pretty good, right? If you click on Advanced, you'll see this button, which is what you're probably going to want to click, Ignore White. Because if you don't ignore white, all this white space that makes up the square of your image or rectangle of your image is going to be there. So let's click Ignore White, right? And this, when we convert this to a vector, then we won't have the white. So okay, I'm going to go ahead and say I'm happy with this. I know it's still rough. But the next thing we have to do is click this expand button, right? Because right now, this, again, we could keep fiddling with the dialog box and try to get it to what we like. But if we want to actually start working with it as a vector, we have to expand it. So I hit expand. And so what you'll notice is that, right, you're used to seeing all these vector dots, right? That's what's come up. And now how do we clean up this logo? Because quite honestly, right, even though you took it and you traced it and used your Sharpie, it's kind of a mess, right? It's not as nice as it could be. Well, there's a lot of things we could do. Looking at this, right, it's got too many of these. We're going to want to simplify. So if we could take the smooth tool out, right, and we just try to really simplify here, right? And keep going until, see, it's starting to get pretty simplified there when I keep running and keep running over it, right? Now, be aware, it may take you a bunch of passes. You may have to then manually at some point go in and handle each individual. You want to move these things, right? But for the most part, you have to have it selected, right? This smooth tool is going to be pretty nice for you as a start, right? Here, I grab an edge, make it go good. Here, I didn't like the way it did that. Fix that, right? Maybe I move this anchor around. That's the futzing you're going to have to do with trying to get this right. Obviously, the cleaner you draw it, the better it's going to be. The more you play with those settings in the image trace dialog box, right, the better it's going to be. What about this? We have this big thing jutting out here. Smooth is not going to work for us. We can jump to the eraser tool. What is going on with my, right? So here's the eraser tool, right? Shift E. I'm going to zoom in so that I know I'm working well. Remember that the left and right brackets will make it bigger and smaller. And I'll go ahead and just, right, start carving it out just as good as I can do it, right? Once I'm done with that, maybe I'll switch back to the smooth tool and see if I can get this to smooth out. See? And so now it's already starting to look better, right? And so you're going to have to go through and really do your best to try to clean it up and make it as tight and as clean, right? Because you see in the example, it's very geometric, right? And if we knew how to use Illustrator better, we could do that. For this class, good enough is good enough. In this case, right here, see, I have nothing is right here in this way. Remember, we ignored white. If I had white, I'd have to click on this and erase it. But how do I fill this in? right? We could use a blob brush tool, right? We can go into the blob brush and just kind of, fill it in, and that really gives us two. Whoops. Oh, another thing I should mention is that we're in a group, right? If you have more than one object, so I can ungroup it, and that blob brush actually filled it right in for me. I didn't have to use this like a shape builder. But if we have a circle like this, it makes sense to just forget that you have that circle, because you're probably not going to draw a really great circle unless you um, use kind of a tracing thing. And even then, the Sharpie, it just could come out messy. So I'll just go ahead and replace that with a geometric mark, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and draw out a circle, right? Get rid of that old circle, put in my new perfectly geometric circle, right, that I let Illustrator make me, right? And I should strive then, so nice how clean that is, right? We should strive to have these clean. Now, there's nothing saying if you're a more advanced student and you've done graphic design classes that you can't go ahead and use every tool in Illustrator to do this, right? But for the people who are not design majors and have never used Illustrator before, right, I don't expect you to go with the pen tool and really fix everything out. Just try to make it as smooth as you can and clean as you can. Make sure it's not just obviously unclean, right? Because you still will lose points if it's really terrible, right? Because I have to have you do it right. But you see how much easier this is than trying to use all these tools in Illustrator, right? So remember the smooth tool, eraser tool, the blob brush tool. These are tools that are really go a long way for you in cleaning up this project, right? Because we can do all this here. I want to add more with the blob brush, right? And again, the left and right brackets help us, right? Go here, right? That didn't do a great job, but it's adding it. If you have the object selected and use the blob brush, it actually adds it to the shape, right? Then I'd switch over to the smooth tool and just be like, smooth it for me, right? Smooth, smooth, smooth. This is what we're doing here. I'd probably also look for opportunities too, right? I'm trying to smooth it. I'm trying to smooth it. I'm trying to smooth it. At some point, I could probably switch over to this tool right here, and maybe even just help me by drawing in, like just lining it up, right? And see how nice and neat that is starting to make it look. I have to be aware of how they go, but I would grab both, right? Go to our shape builder, add those in. So I'm working on just one object here. Whoops, didn't get that part of it, right? I need to make sure, right? So again, do your best on trying to clean this up and make it super smooth, but you don't have to draw completely from scratch, right? That's the whole point of this refinement and making this last final mark with Sharpie, so that you can go ahead and have it something there so that we can move on to the adding typography.